This is Educated Artistry. Hello, guys. Welcome to the Lash Con recap, coming to you from my hotel room the day after the Lash Conference is over. It's actually 7 in the morning right now because my mom and my brother are flying in and we're going to go to Disneyland today and tomorrow. But I wanted to give you guys a really fresh recap episode while everything is fresh in my mind, while I kind of have all of my thoughts and my feelings and my experiences out there so I can share them with you guys. And I'm sorry if my voice is a little raspy. I have talked nonstop, I think, all weekend long, but I wanted to come on here, give you guys an episode, and just kind of talk about the Lash Conference, how it was being a sponsor and having a booth at the conference this year. Some things that worked really well, some things that I might do different next time. And I just kind of want to give you guys a rundown on what this conference was like. If you weren't following along on social media, I'm from Vancouver, Washington. The conference is in Anaheim, California. And we drove. My two friends, Michelle and Shay, they are both booth renters at my salon. And they were kind enough to be able to come with me and help me work the booth and set up. So we drove to Anaheim, which was a 15-hour drive total. I know I'm crazy. And we drove I think the first day it was like a 9-hour drive. Oh my gosh, I feel like I've already been here. I think I actually have been gone a week. I left on Thursday and it's Tuesday today. Okay. So we left on Thursday morning. We got to Sacramento. That was like a 9-hour drive. And then we drove to Anaheim the next day. And that was like a 7-hour drive, maybe a little bit more traffic and all the stops too. So right when we got in on Friday, we pretty much came in. We got our stuff into our room and then we went and got registered and then we got dressed really quick and we went to the white party that was so freaking fun. I've always wanted to go to a white party and no one's ever thrown one and it was just so pretty. It was perfect outside. It was like 70 degrees, which coming from Washington, it's been like 50 degrees lately, so that was really nice. I'm like, wow, I can be outside without a jacket. This is amazing. I got to meet a lot of you guys that night, but we were honestly so exhausted from driving all day and just getting ready so fast and getting into the party. And we hadn't eaten, we'd snacked all day. So we didn't stay at the party very long. We got a drink. We mixed and mingled with a couple people. And then we went down to the bar and we got some dinner. We also had to be up early on Saturday at 8 a.m. to set up the booth because that was the time slot that I had to set up. So I didn't really want to go too hard or stay out too late that night. And the last 2 years at the conference, I've really put a lot of focus into making sure I'm still taking care of myself because the first couple years that I went, we were partying so hard and I was hungover the next days, not eating, not drinking water. And although I was learning so much, I feel like I wasn't really able to be present and engaging and to really soak everything in because I just went so fucking hard and just barely slept. It was just a crazy time. So fun. But the past couple years, I've been wanting to just be a little bit more intentional with taking care of myself, listening to my body. So I was like, okay, it's time. I need to get some food in me. I need to get to bed early. So we got up early and we set up the trade show, our booth on Saturday morning, and that all went great. Honestly, I feel like I had everything pretty well organized. I'm a really punctual and organized person. So we got everything set up. I brought a steamer to steam the shirts that I brought for merch. And I think it only took maybe an hour and 45 minutes to get the booth set up, which was super nice. I kept my booth pretty simple. I got a nice backdrop, custom made, and your booth comes with a table and then you have some chairs in there as well. So I pretty much just got the backdrop set up. We got the merch set up and steamed. I had a couple pins and stickers that I was just giving away to people for free. And then we also had a raffle drawing going on at the booth. So if whether you have subscribed to the podcast or not, then you could scan the QR code, subscribe, and then I had a little paper for people to fill out that just had their name, their Instagram, and then I had them check whether they were a new subscriber or an OG subscriber. And I need to go through because I kept all those papers because I really wanted to find something that I could like kind of get some data, like collect data with. And it was kind of honestly a last minute decision. And it was a client of mine where I knew I was going to do raffle. And she was like, you should have some sort of question on there or something that you can collect data with. And I was like, that's brilliant. So I decided just to do like whether they were new or a new subscriber or an OG subscriber. I thought it'd just be interesting to see like, really like, did we gain a lot of new people? Which, by the way, welcome if you are a new listener and you met me this weekend at the Lash Conference and this is your first time tuning in to Educated Artistry. I am super excited for you guys to be here and be able to binge the like 108 episodes that we have. And I hope that this is your vibe and you decide to stay. But that was the data that I had decided to collect. So I haven't gone through and seen really what that turned out to be, but I'm going to when the time comes. So we did that and we had some raffles. As for merch, I got some cute t-shirts that said somebody's fine ass lash artist. And then I got a couple totes. One that says on Wednesdays we listen to Educated Artistry podcast, and the other one said self-made baddie. So I just had a couple little merch items, like nothing too crazy. So for the giveaways though, I had a couple Artistry podcast logo on them. So I gave away, I think there's like 4 of those, and then I gave away like four or five tote bags too. So we just did a bunch of giveaways throughout the conference, which was really fun too. People got their pins, they got their buttons. I liked doing pins, especially for the conference. And I did this last year where I handed them out to people because they're all wearing lanyards so they can put them on their lanyards. So other people are still seeing like, oh, Educated Artistry, like you connected with her too, or like, oh, what's that? So I really like doing the pins. A lot of people liked to grab them. They were super cute. I just like designed them on Canva. And then I'm pretty sure, guys, I use Sticker Mule to get the pins done. So if you ever need little pins, I use them for stickers as well. So that was really cool. I'm trying to think of what else I had at the booth. We had, I brought last minute, which I'm so glad I did this. Last minute, I packed my Polaroid camera because I was packing. I was like, oh, I should bring that. Like, I think that'd be kind of fun to have. So I brought it and I went and got film. And if anybody asked to take a picture, we would take a picture on their phone and be like, hey, do you want to take a Polaroid? And you can take it with you. So it was like a little souvenir. And then I also took Polaroids with the live interview guests that I had. So we took a Polaroid for both of us so I could keep one and they could keep one. And I thought it was just a cute little, I don't know, like a souvenir, little memory that people could take with them and, post it up, pin it somewhere or whatever. So I was like so glad that I brought that. And everyone's like, that's such a good idea. That was really, really fun to bring. And it's just like, that was just kind of another random little thing where I was like, oh, okay. My big focus on this booth, I had a lot of people ask me, they were like, what is your goal with like having this booth here? Are you trying to make money? Are you trying to sell courses? Like whatever it is. Oh, side note, that was the other thing I did do was a LashCon bundle on all my master classes for like an insane discount just for the weekend. So I did have that as an option for purchase as well. But realistically, like my main goal for this being like a booth at the Lash Conference was just to like network and connect. I just wanted to do another way to get out there to other artists in the industry. And I have this podcast with over 100 episodes of this amazing information and these amazing guests, and it's free, right? So it was really just about meeting people that have listened for years or recently, finding new faces and getting new people to subscribe, and just really connecting and talking about why I started the podcast, what my goal is with the podcast, who I want to help, who I am. And that was it. Like I didn't really have any crazy expectations of like, oh, I want like this many course signups or I want to sell this much merch. I pretty much got the merch to help cover the cost of the booth. And I'll have to look at the number with the course sales, but I would say we probably broke even on the cost of the booth, guys. But I want to be really transparent. There are many other additional costs outside of just what it costs you to secure your booth. So I do believe that we broke even on that, which was great. But for me, it's like I was really just about like networking, bringing an experience to the industry. I think it was really cool too because I got to meet a lot of people that I hadn't met before or heard of that I'm like, I need to talk to you on the podcast. I need you to share your story. I need you to share your tips. I need your advice. Listeners would love to hear about this. So I think that was really cool too because it's even helping me when it comes to being introduced to other people that have this valuable information and these stories that should be shared and that I can now be connected with and give them a platform to help share their story, but also give them a platform to introduce to listeners who may be going through a similar struggle or wondering how they can problem solve this or wondering like how to hire their first employee, like whatever it is. So I was just extremely honored and excited to be able to meet so many of you and to have so many of you be like, oh my gosh, I love podcasts. I'm going to listen. Also, something that I took away from this weekend, all of us lash artists, we love true crime. Every time I ask them, I'm like, do you listen to podcasts? Or like, yeah, when I'm lashing, I'm always listening to true crime podcasts. I'm like, same girl. Like, I think all of us just are like obsessed with it. So that was super cool. So that was kind of like what the vibe of the booth was. So on Friday, the trade show opened from 4 to 6:30, and that was like an insane 2 hours. Now, I remembered that last year when they did that with the trade show floor, it was insane those first 2 hours when they opened it. And so I knew I was not scheduling any interviews that day. I was, just wanted to talk and meet people and say hi, take photos, introduce myself. And that was the plan. And those 2.5 hours were insane. Like, insane. I was just like shook. It was so busy. But it was so fun and it was so high energy and everybody was just so excited to be there. There were so many amazing sales going on. I think there was over 90 sponsors this year, so that was insane. And I will say too, the trade show floor was really cool. This year was a little different for me because it was at the Anaheim Hilton instead of the Pasadena Hilton where it's been in the past. So it was definitely set up better for this type of conference. And the trade show floor alone was like its own room and area, which was really cool because in the past it was kind of broken up into different rooms because they just didn't have a space that was large enough. So that was super cool and I really liked the layout. And it was nice because when the trade show floor closed, they were like on the speaker being like, you got 15 minutes to shop. And then they would close it up. So we could actually be done and like close up and actually get out of there too. So I loved that about this new hotel that they're doing the conference at. I feel like I totally just went on a tangent with the trade show floor. So we opened for the 2.5 hours, and then that was super fun and insane. And then we went to the Vegas party after that. I think we went out. I can't even remember if we went and got dinner. Honestly, all the days are becoming a blur to me. Oh, we just got pizza. We got pizza and we went to the room that night. That's right. And then we got ready for the Vegas party. That was really fun. It was just right across the street at the Marriott. They gave away little cash that you could play games with. We played some blackjack, played some roulette, got some really cute photos taken, like these black and white ones. I will say that's what's so fun at all the parties. There's photo booths and they usually print them out, but you can also have them sent to your phone. I love having like a physical photo to be able to put up somewhere. So I love that kind of stuff. So we went to that Vegas party and yeah, played some games, got the photos done. That one was sponsored by Shop Lashco. And I did a little trivia game with Marley, and that was really fun. I'm excited to see how that is. I will say though, she asked me the first question was super easy. It was like, what is a metal tool that we use to lash with? And it was like, okay, tweezers. And the next one was like, what does PBT stand for? And I was like, poly the and I'm like, fuck. Like I could see the words in my head, but I'm like, I don't remember how to pronounce it. But I was like, Polly is all I got. And she was like, don't worry, no one else has gotten it. And I was like, damn, we always talk about PBT fibers, but like, do we actually know what the like what it stands for? So it was really funny. It definitely humbled me a little bit. I was like, oh shit. So that was really fun and cute. And I love that they did that. And then they're gonna use it for like clips and reels and TikToks. I'm like so smart. And they gave us little hangover like recovery bags too, which was perfect. And I will say, like, you guys can probably tell I was going, I'm not even gonna fucking lie. I was going to film this episode and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna have my eye gels on. I'm like cozy in the hotel room. And then I put on my camera and I was like, oh my God, like my eyes are still pretty swollen because I'm just been so tired. But I was like, I have to go put a little bit of makeup. Like, I just need to. So sorry, guys. Or I guess you're welcome, maybe. So that was fun. But the recovery hangover bags were perfect. I personally didn't really drink like anything crazy. I guess Saturday night was probably the night that we partied the most. We didn't have to be at the trade show floor until 11:30 the next day, so that was kind of my night, but, it was still wasn't anything crazy compared to the past. So, came back and Sunday was the first, like, official day where classes and everything started with the conference. So, they did a big main session in the morning that started at, like, 8:50. That's always super fun. They get you hyped up and dancing. They gave us, like, all pom-poms, and there was a couple speakers in the morning. I stayed up until I saw the speaker Ryan Leake. His talk was so good and inspiring. I'm actually going to grab my notebook so I can share a few notes with you guys that I took. He went through these 5 self-awareness questions within his talk, and it was honestly also good. So, one of the things that really stood out to me, he was talking about build great people. Like when people come into your business or they take a coaching with you, or maybe they listen to a podcast episode or they come take a training with you, whatever it is, they're in your presence. It is so much more than just a business transaction. And he was saying, like, if somebody comes into my space, they will not leave the same. Now, and that really stood out to me because I'm really big on client experience. And I really think is going to set you apart and give you longevity in your career. But I loved this because it's not just about like, oh, we gave them this amazing set of lashes. They feel amazing. They feel confident, right? Like, was there something about like, did you inspire them? Did you give them something that just completely turned their day around? We all have some clients that come in a little grumpy sometimes and like they're maybe a little short with you and you're like, all right, I can tell you're having a bad day. But guess what? When you leave here, you're going to be having a better day. I'm going to make sure you're having a better day and that you're smiling when you leave. So like what can you do where it's more than just a business transaction and like actually creating those connections and building great people, having people coming into your business and them leaving better, feeling better mentally, physically, emotionally than when they first came in. That's amazing. These were the 5 questions that he'd asked and each one he went through like a really like it was just so good. I can't even explain. If you were at the Lash conference and you missed it, then I would definitely make sure that you watch the replay when it's available. But he asked, what's it like to be on the other side of you? Which was also such a good, powerful question. Like, what does it look like to be on the other side of you when you have somebody else's perception of you? What does that look like? Right? He asked, how can I get better? How can it get better? How can we get better? Then there was, who am I paving a way for? At some point in your life, somebody rolled the dice on you. And he went into this amazing story about like his career and his journey about people like, oh, we don't usually, take speakers from like outside of our organization, but we'll roll the dice on you. We'll give it a chance. And that was something too, like how many times have people rolled the dice on you? And who am I paving a way for? And then the fourth one was, am I enjoying it? I wrote this note down that he had said, our level of gratitude determines our level of enjoyment. Grateful for what we have and who we have, which is actually something that I have been working on a lot lately is getting into journaling every morning. And I honestly only did it like 2 mornings when I've been here. I'm going to do it this morning too. I tried so hard to stay on track, but I kept forgetting because it is a new habit that I'm trying to build. So it's not as natural for me to like go grab my journal right away. I really have to think about it. And since I was out of my normal routine, it was just a little bit harder. But the fifth one was, what do I do if I knew I couldn't fail? Which I love that question too. So that was just like a couple of the questions that he'd asked and he went into each little one. And it was just so good. His talk was really powerful. And I talked to a lot of people throughout the conference, and that was definitely one of their favorite speakers, which was really awesome. So then the trade show floor opened on Sunday, 11:30 in the morning. We were open 11:30 to 6:30. So it was the longest trade show day. And this is the day that I had podcast interviews. So I had Wednesday Wood on from Wednesday the Lasher. I think she just changed her name, but no, I think it's still Wednesday the Lasher. She has a couple different Instagrams. We had Allie Lilly on from Lash Anarchist. And then I had Bryce on from Unstripped Lashes, which we've had Bryce on a couple months ago. Actually, all these guests on the first day are returning guests, which is kind of cool. And then I had Sydney from Pacific Beauty Cove. She was on. So we did 4 different episodes that day. They're all going to be around 20 to 30 minutes long. I'm going to be releasing those episodes, guys, throughout the rest of this year. So bear with me of course, we're at a conference. There's going to be a little bit of background noise. It might not be like the best audio. I tried my best. I brought all my podcasting equipment, But, there might be a little background noise. We'll kind of see what we can do in editing. But just so you know, I still want you guys to hear these episodes because they all were on different topics too. Like everybody has something unique that they wanted to talk about and share. So it was really cool to be able to have this. And there's just a different vibe when you're talking to somebody in person compared to just over like a Zoom call too. So it was really, really cool to do those 4 interviews. But I will say I was like, oh, I was sleepy because I did the interviews and then, would get up and talk to people, run to the bathroom, try to eat a snack. I am glad that I scheduled the interviews, which is like kind of something that I decided to do the week before. At first, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna like pull people. Like maybe I'll just like pull random, like, hey, do you want to come on the podcast? And I was like, no, I want to be intentional because I want to have good episodes ready for you guys. And I wanted to batch record some episodes, especially through the holiday season. And especially when it gets a little bit busy, you guys know what I'm saying. So I did that and I was really happy that I had people schedule them that way too. I was like, I want to respect other people. Like, some people are speaking or they're on panels or they have a class that they want to take or they're teaching a class. So I wanted them to be able to schedule a spot that worked best within their schedule. So I was super excited that we did it that way. And then I'm trying to think on Sunday, I was honestly so like, it was so fun being at the booth. I was so mentally and physically exhausted by the end of the day. There was a karaoke party sponsored by EBL that night, but we decided to go to dinner. We were starving and oh my God, we found this really good place. Like if you live in California, it's called Croft. It was like this burger sandwich place. We got this like Wagyu smash burger, Wagyu, I think. Oh my God. I'm so embarrassing. It's still early in the morning. And we got this like smash burger. It was so fucking good. We were all just like having food orgasms. We're like, oh my God, like this is the best thing that's ever been in my mouth. And then we got these like poutine, chicken katsu, something fries. It was just so good. So we were just all like, I was like, I was just like disassociating until I ate something. So we got dinner and then we just decided to come back to the room. We were like all in bed by 9:30 because on Monday we had to open up the trade show floor at 8 a.m. So just took it an early night, went to sleep, and then got up yesterday morning. I can't believe this was just yesterday because it feels like it was so long ago, but also it does feel like it was yesterday. So got up yesterday, did the trade show booth from 8 to 1:15, and that was the last of the trade show for the weekend, which was just crazy. But yesterday, I still did some interviews. I had Amanda on from Pretty Little Lash Co. I had Erin from Monarch Lashes, and then I had McKenna Blink by Mac. It was so funny because the first day I had all my interviews were people that I have talked to before and have been on the podcast before. And then my second day was all like brand new faces, which was like it just randomly worked out that way. But it was just kind of funny that that's how it worked out because I was like just so random. So I'm excited for you guys to hear those episodes too because they are new faces, people maybe you haven't met before, been introduced to that have different stories. And something that I kind of love is that when I was looking back at who all I had, I'm like, there's such a variety of different people you can learn from, which is what I think is important for me when I bring on guests. Yes, I love talking to the brand owner or the salon owner that makes 7 figures and has 15 employees. But I also love talking to the solo lash artist that is on their 3rd year lashing. They're just starting to build their education program. They've done like a couple price increases and they're still learning. I think those people are really valuable to talk to too because there's so much that we can learn in those early stages that I think that we forget as we get higher up and we get further away from behind the chair. Because a lot of us will end up transitioning from behind the chair. We maybe go into education or product or trainings or whatever it can be, just being a salon owner. And we can kind of get a little disconnected from what goes on with the day to day struggles and the day to day behind the chair and just the day in the life of a lash artist. So that's why it's so important for me to bring on a multiple different types of people in multiple different levels of their career. So that was really fun. So I'm excited for you guys to hear those episodes. I'm just going to grab up my notes to make sure. So I want to tell you guys, because I'm just like, I don't know, if anybody ever wants to do a trade show booth or you're like, you know what, next year that's what I'm manifesting is that I'm doing a trade show booth, which is literally what I did last year. If you guys saw my Instagram, I wrote in my notes, I will have a booth at Lash Conference 2023 for the podcast. And it was marked November 7th, 2022 that I wrote that note in there. I remember the day so clearly when I did that, where I just wanted to be a part of the conference in a different way since I've been attending it since 2019. And it was just really surreal to be like, wow, I actually like pulled that together, pulled that together and did it myself and got everything set up. And I'm so happy that Shay and Michelle came to help me out throughout the weekend because I couldn't have done it without them. But getting everything prepped beforehand, like I did that by myself. I did not have a team behind me. I didn't have, a creative director. I fucking took some advice from people who have done trade shows before and kind of also paved my own way of how I wanted things to go and to stand out. And it was really cool. So I wanted to give you guys some advice for if you want to do a trade show or any type of, sponsorship at a conference, because there are more popping up around. Like, even if it's not the Lash conference, there's a lot that are coming that could be closer in your area. But I wanted to give you guys a couple tips of just little things that I kind of picked up of like what I would do differently. So functionality was a big one for me where, and I think mainly because of like all my podcasting equipment, I have so many things that need plugged in and like stuff like that. And you get a power cord and then you have to plug in like a power strip to it. And I kind of wish I had power at like both ends of my booth, if that makes sense. Like just the way that some stuff was set up, it was the functionality of my podcasting equipment and how that is set up. I definitely want to improve on next year. Also, just the functionality of my booth, because we had the merch on one side, but then I had the table with where you check out on the other. And then my podcasting stuff was like in the middle. So I feel like I could have just like somehow done that a little bit differently, but that wasn't a huge thing. That was just a little thing where I was like, okay, I might switch things up. I definitely need to figure something out with cords. I want to make it a little bit nicer. And then lighting too, because lighting, like in most convention centers, fucking sucks. And with my limited power outlets, with the length of the cords that I needed, because I wanted the cord, like the cords weren't long enough to plug into the power strip. So like the functionality just of my booth in general is something that I definitely want to improve next year. So that's just like something too, just to think about is like how you want it set up, how you want the flow to be. I did, and I got this tip from Ashley Gonzalez she's now working with PLA, but obviously she is still involved in the Lash Poppy, formerly Beautylicious Lashes. But she said that to open up your booth, because they give you a table that like is in front and you can just stand there and then your booth. So I put my table to the side. So my booth was more open and people could come in and hang out. And that was a really great tip. So thank you so much, Ashley, because I did that and I feel like it changed the whole vibe. It kept it open. People wanted to like take videos and pictures like when we're podcasting live and take pictures in front of the banner. Like it was really cool to not have that barrier of the table like between us. So I wanted it open. So that was like really, really good. So I would definitely, if you do decide to do a trade show in the future, find a way that you can kind of have like an open concept. I would say definitely another tip is just to really focus on a community building like task. Have that overall be your goal, whether it's getting emails or having people subscribe or enter raffles, or maybe you give them like, I was giving out the pins and like once again, like Lash Poppy was giving out branded Cheeto bags, like stuff like that, that it builds community. It shows part of your brand. I was also giving out free Celsius throughout the weekend where I was like, come to the booth, grab a Celsius, because so many of us are tired and not everybody wants to drink lukewarm coffee all day. And that was something too, where I was like engaging to get people to the booth, to give them a freebie, to have it be a memorable experience, something a little bit different. And I think if you can do something like that to stand out, like you don't always have to spend thousands of dollars on a booth when you can do these little things to stand out. I will say the next tip too is to keep your booth simple, especially for your first year. Don't overspend. There's really not a need. Once again, this ties into like, I would be more strategic on like, how can I take maybe money? Let me break this down for you guys. So I got a big banner for the backdrop of my booth. I was going to get a smaller standing banner as well, but it was going to be like another $200 for that extra banner. And I was like, you know what? What could I use that $200 for instead that is going to be more engaging for my community? And that was where then I got the idea with the Celsius. I was like, you know what? Like instead of getting this extra banner that's more of an aesthetic thing, right? Then really like serving anybody. And especially when I'm like not trying to spend a shit ton of money on this booth, like what can I do instead? And so I took that $200 and instead I went and bought like 6 cases of Celsius and gave those out throughout the weekend, which I feel like served my community and made it more memorable and more fun and got people to the booth than what the one banner would have done for me, right? Now, I'm not saying like don't go all out on your booth and like get the nice things and make it look nice. But when it's your first year, especially, like you don't have to go all out. And I will say, when I first walked in and I saw people setting up their booths, some of them are insane. Like Lash Reality's booth was amazing. And there was so many really cool booths that were like just so aesthetic and just gorgeous. And Lash Bomb and Lash Anarchist booth was really cool too. And at first I'm like, fuck, my booth sucks. Like it's nothing. But you know what? This is my first year. This is their like 4th or 5th year doing trade shows, right? And they have a team behind them, guys. They have people that build and set up their booths and work at their booths, right? I'm just me. And then my 2 friends that came, right? So don't let the comparison of what other people have make you feel bad about where you're at, because they also had it was their first year at one point and they were thinking the same fucking thing about other people that have been doing trade shows longer. So keep it simple. Try not to compare yourself. I will say, especially if you attend the Lash Conference, they do have an app, which is great, and there's a social wall. I would make sure you are heavily involved on that social wall and active there, because that's a great way to let people know that you have a sale. I had posted the Celsius there, like with a cute picture, like stop by the booth and grab a Celsius on me today. Stuff like that. So be really active inside of that social wall, because that's how people will find you. People are constantly posting in there, all sorts of things. So that's my next tip for you. And then I would say my last one is just to really focus on being present and engaging. I really tried to set my phone down, not really look at it. I didn't want like to be scrolling on my phone when people walked by. Really take the time to be present and engaging with these people, because there were so many of you guys that have been listeners of the podcast since the beginning. And to be able to see you in real life and like talk to you, and like it's going to make me emotional. Okay, it's going to try not to get emotional. It's going to make me a little emotional because there are some times like when you're podcasting and you're putting, I'm just going to be like super fucking raw and real with you guys right now. Podcasting and doing this like takes a lot of time. It doesn't really make a lot of money, right? At this point. That's the goal. It takes a lot of time, and sometimes you can feel like you're just talking into a void. Although I see the numbers behind like the amount of episodes that get downloaded every week. I see them. I know people are listening. But to actually meet people in person and be like, dude, when you had this episode, like it got me, or it helped me so much, or it's inspired me, or I listened to your podcast while I'm taking my clients and then I take notes. That was like so surreal. It reminded me and it reignited the passion that I have like behind this podcast and behind creating it for people, and that it is important. It is helping people, which it's like so silly because I know that it is, but then it's just like you get into that comparison mode and maybe some imposter syndrome and is anybody actually listening? And it was really, really special to just talk to you guys. And then I'm super excited for the people who, oh my God, why am I crying? I'm super excited for the people that are joining and can have the opportunity to listen to. And I hope that it's your vibe and I hope you stick around and I hope you enjoy it. I just, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you guys for saying like this sweet everything, and that you feel inspired and you've learned so much. And like, I just can't, it was a very surreal experience when I actually sat down and I like really took it all in. That's why I would say to like really be present, like no matter what type of service you offer or product you have, to sit there with the people that invest in you. And even if it's not money, that they're investing their time. Like for me, like the fact that you guys take 30 minutes to an hour every week and you listen and you tune in and you invest that time into listening to this podcast, like that is super valuable. And I don't take that for granted. And I just want to say thank you. This weekend was super, super fun. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm like sniffling in the mic. It was very fun. I definitely want to do it again next year. I actually think that there's an opportunity that I'm going to be doing something very similar this year in March in Arizona. So I will give you guys updates for that, especially if you're located there. I actually know we do have like a pretty large listener base in Arizona. We'll be back and we're going to do this again. And I'm excited. Yeah, I don't even know. Just thank you guys so much if you've been there. I hope that you enjoyed this episode, a little bit of a recap of the conference, kind of how the flow goes. Oh, I didn't even finish the for last night. Once we packed up the booth and everything, we went we went to this really yummy restaurant, but then we had the wrap up party with Lash Anarchist and Lash Bomb. It was a pajama party. They always end the conference on a pajama party, and it was super fun. But once again, I'm not gonna lie, I was tired and I was just like, I'm gonna go to Disneyland. My mom and my brother will be landing in like an hour and a half. So I'm gonna get ready now and go to Disneyland. And I was like, I need to be awake and I need to not be hungover. So, and I knew I wanted to get up in the morning and record an episode. So that was the Lash Conference 2023. I am super excited for the next year. It has been amazing to see how much it has grown this past year or these past 5 years. And thank you, Paul and Tessany. I literally saw Paul in the elevator for like a minute and I don't think I saw him the rest of the weekend. Like it was so stinking busy and crazy. And I think I saw Tessany like one time in passing. Like it was just wild. So thank you, Paul and Tessany, once again for putting on this amazing conference. You guys continue to elevate it every single year. I hope that you guys were able to have some fun as well. I love the new hotel that we're at. I loved the trade show floor. Everything was really smooth and seamless as always. And if anybody has been interested in going to the Lash conference, I do believe that they will put a super duper pre-sale ticket price up. Like usually it goes up a few weeks after the conference is done. So definitely go check out the Lash conference or the Lash cast so you can see when those pre-sale goes up. That's going to be like the cheapest price you can get it and you can plan for coming next year, which I believe they already put out the dates for October 11th through the 14th. So if this is something that you've been wanting to do for your business, you've been wanting to learn and grow, connect, network, then I would definitely have this be on your vision board for 2024 and start thinking about, this is a great time to be able to set aside the extra cash, to set aside the money, to plan, to find, maybe somebody to come with you that's in your area so you guys can share a hotel room, whatever that is, and get those tickets so you can come next year and see me at the podcast booth again. But I hope you guys have a wonderful day and we will see you next week on Educated Artistry. Goodbye.